Hello guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto becomes the True Uzumaki and got Harem? Part 2. If you want more awesome fan fiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So without wasting any time, let's get into the video. Slowly Naruto put his hand on Anko's shoulder and shook her. Come on Harem, it's time to get ready for the academy. Anko's face scrunched up as she buried her face into Naruto's hard chest, mumbling, I don't want to. Naruto smirked at his girlfriend's antics as he ran his hand through her hair. Come on Harem, it will be fun, we get to destroy some Gakas, he said in a sing-song voice that sent a shiver down Anko's spine in a good way. She looked up into his blue eyes. Can I feed them to my snakes? She asked, licking her lips. Naruto shook his head, sadly no Harem, but you can threaten them with that and watch as they piss themselves in fear, and I suppose a little scratch or two to put the fear in them wouldn't hurt. Anko pouted hearing that she couldn't feed her snakes the Gakas, but smiled thinking she could at least have a little fun, that her boyfriend would let her. She was normally the dominant type and she was with most other people, but over the past 3 weeks she had found herself rather submissive to Naruto. She didn't mind. He still let her have plenty of fun, and their little session last week when she let him be dominant was very enjoyable. They didn't go all the way only groping through clothes, but he was good, so she would gladly submit to him for the pleasure. But there was another thing, she was honestly a little scared of Naruto's strength and skill. The Hokage said that if it wasn't due to the laws he had set about the age of becoming a shinobi, he would have already made Naruto a genin. But the law stated he had to pass the academy test after 4 years and be 16. That and the fact that the ever so honorable civilian council would never allow the demon brat to become a genin like that, they didn't have any say in the matter, but they would throw a major fit about it and bury the old man in mountains of paperwork that not even Kage Bunshin could get him out of. He really couldn't be hassled with that, and he wanted his grandson to enjoy his childhood for a bit longer yet. Anko could understand the man's reasoning, but it still didn't change the fact that Naruto had more skill than anyone in the academy and he hadn't even attended day 1 yet. Anko sighed, fine, I guess that will do. She said before pulling herself up and giving her boyfriend a chastity kiss on the lips. I'll take the shower first, you get started on breakfast. Naruto nodded at his girlfriend as they got up, walking past each other. Anko reached for Naruto and gave his backside a squeeze. I'm so glad I saved that work of art. Naruto shook his head, and before she was out of arm's reach he gave her backside a little slap, making her jump. Careful Harem, two can play that game. He chuckled, leaving Anko blushing like mad. He had beat her and teasing again, and that was just one of the reasons she loved him. Scene break. Naruto stood in front of the mirror in his bedroom, finishing applying the last of his outfit on him. He grinned, looking in the mirror. Well, Akane-chan, what do you think? Naruto asked aloud with a smirk. Akane blushed in Naruto's mind, looking through his eyes. Very nice Naruto-sama, I'm sure you'll have a great first day. She said aloud through the seal, which had been part of what changed when Naruto had torn the seal when he came out the first time, allowing her to speak through the seal. Naruto grinned, only to feel 2 arms snake around his midsection before he heard a voice behind him. The redhead's right, very nice indeed, and you're all mine. Anko smirked, hugging Naruto's back. As she said that, Naruto could mentally feel Akane frown slightly in his mindscape but brushed it off as nothing as he turned to see Anko wearing the outfit she had chosen a week back when Naruto had gone to pick up his Ka-san's katana. He had bought it for her, saying she looked great in it. He was right. She wore a fitted mesh bodysuit that stretches from her neck down to her thighs, but with dark orange wrappings around her bust, saying she may want to look good, but that area was for Foxy-kun only. A dark orange miniskirt, a dark blue belt, and pale gray shin guards. She had her own version of Naruto's trench coat, only it was tan, not black, but had the same seals. And adorned as always was the snake fang pendant around her neck. Naruto had asked about it and she had said it was the only thing her old sensei ever gave her, and it served as a reminder of a promise that she would kill her former sensei for betraying her and branding her with this curse mark. Naruto had seen the curse mark the 2nd week and had said that he wouldn't rest until he found a way to remove it. He asked her to be You look beautiful my Harem, Naruto said, kissing her lips, gently wrapping his arms around her waist and holding her gently, making her smirk. You ready for today Naru-kun? Anko asked with a smirk on her lips. Naruto chuckled, yeah, I'm ready. I've been looking forward to this day for the past 3 weeks. I know I'm more than strong enough. This academy is going to be a walk in the park for me. The only hard part will be having to spend time away from you Harem, he said as he pulled their embrace into a hug. Anko smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. I know Naru-kun, I know, but we can make up for it after class. Remember Ikyauni-sensei said we have Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays off physical training, so we can have some fun and enjoy our youth, as Hokage Jiji says. In the past 3 weeks Anko had been training alongside Naruto. When Naruto wasn't training with one of their senseis she was. She even joined the clones in for target and jutsu practice. Seeing as she could only make a maximum of 2 clones before being completely drained, she couldn't use it to train as Naruto could, which she was disappointed in, but didn't let it get to her. Over those 3 weeks with the Hokage's regular visits she had become somewhat of a granddaughter to him like Naruto was a grandson, even going so far as to call him Jiji, which made the old man smile at the fact. Anko had been lucky enough that her ex-sensei had been in such a rush to get out of the village that he had left copies of his snake jutsu scrolls behind, which the Sandai Ami had found, and had decided to give them to Anko, as she was the only snake user left in the village. She hadn't been thrilled about learning the bastard's techniques, but she decided to make use of them seeing as she was a snake user. Breaking off from the hug the two of them shared a brief kiss before walking for the door, Naruto picking up his black bakken as he walked. It had been one that he had had custom made by Daichi. The whole thing was made from chakra metal. It was blunt, but when Naruto channeled his chakra into it, it would cut as good as a katana would. After Naruto had it made, the Hokage had taken the liberty to applying 3 seals to it, all of which Naruto recognized. There was a storage seal on the hilt holding 50 kunai for quick access. The second one Naruto only partially recognized because he had started to learn the weaker version of it. It was a strengthening and reinforcement seal that provided SS plus rank protection. Meaning that it would be strong enough to take a hell of a lot of damage and still not even chip. He was learning the weaker C rank version of the seal, but the base array was the same, that is why he recognized it. The third seal activated the second Naruto lifted it. It was a resistant seal making the blade heavier in Naruto's hands, but not physically heavier, meaning it took more effort to lift and swing, but it helped him develop the proper muscles for when he wielded a blade without the seals. The bakken also had a protection seal on it, which gave anyone a nasty chakra burn should they touch it without Naruto saying so. The restriction and protection seals were linked to a mental control seal placed behind Naruto's right ear, so he can control them at any time. Taking the bakken, he slotted it into the loop on the side of his Anbu trousers as they walked out of the apartment. The Hokage had asked him not to use his Kasen's blade in public, as it would cause them both a headache should anyone recognize it. That's why he had the bakken made. Naruto locked the door and activated the blood seal before wrapping his arm around Anko's waist, and then both of them disappeared into a red and purple leaf shunshin. Scene break. Naruto walked up to the classroom door he had been assigned to, having already parted with Anko at the main desk for her to go to her third-year class. He knew they couldn't be in the same class, even though his skill was enough to have him advance years ahead of his age group. But again the council would go against it, and Jiji still wanted him to have as much of a childhood as possible, so he would just have to make do. Opening the door he went into the classroom. The room was a standard square room with 3 rows of seats wide, climbing at a vertical angle up the back of the room. There were others his age in the room already seated and others standing around talking. Naruto didn't really recognize any of them, except for 1 or 2. Kiba Inuzuka, his attire consisted of dark grayish pants reaching to his calves and a gray hooded fur-lined coat, with a hood placed on his head, over an apparent plate of armor and fishnet undershirt, with his ninhound Akamaru on his head under the hood. Akamaru was a small white pup, with brown ears, no bigger than a cat. But he would grow to be the size of a small horse from what Naruto had seen. The two of them knew each other from a week back when Hana, Kiba's older sister, had come looking for Ikgao having not seen her best friend in 2 weeks. When Ikgao had told Hana that she was training Naruto under orders of the Hokage, Hana had suggested that they take the training to the Inuzuka compound, that there was plenty of room there, while the clone trained here. Needless to say, she had been shocked seeing so many clones, but knew the boy was the Kikbi container, but didn't hold it against him as like many of her clan. They accepted the invitation and went. There Naruto and Anko met Kiba and his mother Tsume Inuzuka. The woman was extremely blunt, just like Hana, but Naruto and Anko liked her. Kiba was at first a thick-headed idiot, but after a spar with Naruto one-on-one, getting his ass kicked in 30 seconds flat made him change his tune, and Tsume, Hana and Anko nearly bust a gut laugh their asses off. Naruto and Kiba had become good friends that day. They had even hung out a few times while Naruto was having lunch. Tsume had said Naruto and Anko were always welcome at the Inuzuka compound, that anyone that can kick Kiba's ass like that are great company. The only other one Naruto recognized was Hinata. She had dark blue hair which she had cut in a short leveled Harem cut style just above her forehead, with chin-length strands framing her face. She wore a cream-colored hooded jacket with a fire symbol on the upper right and left sleeves and fur around the cuffs and hem, with navy blue pants. The only reason he recognized her was from 4 years back when he was little. He had seen her in the local park while she was getting picked on by some local bullies 2 years older than them. He had defended her and ended up getting the crap kicked out of him for it. After beating him the bullies had just left, not even looking back. Hinata had come over to him and thanked him for helping her, apologizing for not being strong enough to do it herself. He had told her he had had worse beatings, she was confused by that and was about to help him, but then the Haiku guard had come back from his break and took her away, saying someone of her class shouldn't associate herself with someone like him. Naruto frowned at the memory, realizing now what the man was referring to when he said someone like him, he had meant the container of the Kikbi. Boy, wouldn't they be surprised to learn the whole thing was controlled from the shadows by someone who had a Sharingan. Yes, that had been the fact Akane had told Naruto during his meeting with the Hokage. He had wanted all the information she could give him on the man, believing her fully about being controlled. She had mentioned how he had cursed Red Eye with 3 tomos in it. The Hokage had recognized the eyes immediately and informed them it was the Jutsu of the Uchiha clan, which had been massacred 6 years earlier by one of its own, leaving only one of them alive, but had put him in a coma that had lasted 3 months. Naruto's eyes scanned the classroom at that thought, and he stopped when he saw who he was looking for, Sasuke Uchiha, the last Uchiha. He had black eyes and spiky black hair with a blue tint. He wore a navy blue short-sleeved shirt with a high collar, white shorts, and wide arm warmers, but none of that caught his eye more than the way his hair was styled. Looking at it from the side, looked like a duck had nestled in his hair and had buried its head, leaving only its butt sticking out the back, duck butt. Naruto had to hold in a laugh as he thought about that, but then he noticed something else. About 50% of the girls in the class were looking at Sasuke with hard eyes, and the other 50 were looking at him with the same eyes. He had to blink once or twice, but then sighed. Great fangirls, thought Naruto as he walked to his seat. Anko-chan is going to love this when she finds out. She may even try to feed them to her snakes. As Naruto sat down, he noticed more than just the girls' eyes on him. He had drawn a few boys' attention also, the Uchiha in particular, as he watched him walk to his seat. Naruto felt his gaze, well, it was more like a glare. He didn't know what the Uchiha's problem was, he had just walked in. Sure, he felt bad for the guy being in the same boat with no living family, but unlike Naruto, the council, the civilian side at least, worshipped the ground the last Uchiha walked on, giving him everything he wanted. He wanted training, he got it. He wanted jutsu, he got it. He wanted weapons, he got it. He was left wanting for nothing. The Hokage had explained that they did it to keep him happy, so he wouldn't leave the village and take his clan jutsu with him. Some wanted him to marry their daughters, so they could have a piece of the large Uchiha fortune. Yes, the old man had explained the Clan Restoration Act to Naruto after he had read about it. One of those days his clones were studying the village's laws. It allowed the last member of a clan to take on multiple spouses to restore said clan. It worked well for the last males of the clan, but the females were turned into breeding stock if that was the case. But that was the way of the world they lived in. Naruto had been explained that he would fall under the act as the last member of the Uzumaki clan, and that he would have to take on multiple wives when he became a shinobi, 5 at the minimum. Anko had been annoyed at that point and was actually ready to castrate the old man for the fact, but Naruto had calmed her down and told her no matter what he would always love her. She had settled after that and accepted the way things were, and she was willing to share considering she got a say in who the wives were. Naruto had agreed, knowing that was the only way they would both be happy. Now Naruto sat being eyed like a piece of meat in a lion's den, but the fact he was the last of a clan was still secret. Naruto could only begin to imagine what it would be like when it became public knowledge that he could take on 5+ wives. He would be eaten alive, and not in a fun way. Sighing again, he shook his head just as he heard the door to the classroom opening again. In walked a man of average height and build with brown hair tied back in a ponytail, dark eyes and a scar that ran across the bridge of his nose, wearing the standard Konoha shinobi outfit, complete with forehead protector, sandals, and flak jacket. His sleeves were also rolled up about 1/4 the way up his arms. He walked to the front of the room, and the other students took that as their hint to take their seats. As they did, the second man walked into the room. He wore the same clothing as the first man, but he had white shoulder-length hair with a slight hint of blue to it and green eyes, with pale perfect skin. Naruto smirked looking at both of them. Well, you can easily tell the one with the scars has had more experience than the one with perfect skin and conditioned silver hair. The one with the scar spoke first. Good morning, welcome to your first day as academy students. My name is Iruka Yamino, and this is my assistant Mizuki. For the next 4 years, we will be your instructors in all things shinobi related. Now, since this is the first day, we will be having a class tournament to set the baseline and class rankings, which will be changing throughout your 4 years here. We will be having a kunai and shuriken throwing tournament at the school range and a taijutsu tournament out on the school practice field. But first we will be going to have a demonstration period to give some of you the chance to show off a little, but first, roll call. Iruka finished as he lifted the paperboard off his desk as he cleared his throat. Shino Aburami. Present, came a voice over Naruto's shoulder. Naruto casually glanced at the boy. He was fair-skinned from what Naruto could see, that is, he had dark bushy brown hair and dark narrow eyes, wearing a pair of dark sunglasses and a sea green jacket with a high upturned collar. Naruto knew of the Aburami clan. The clans of Konoha were in some of the books his clones read. The Aburami clan was one of the four noble clans of Konohagakure. At birth, members of the clan were offered to several special breeds of insects as a nest, residing just under their host's skin. These insects will then live in symbiosis with their host from that point on. Because of this, its members are characterized by their use of insects as weapons. The whole process seemed rather disturbing to Naruto, but he wasn't one to judge. One other thing to mention, the entire clan barely spoke, though when they did speak they were highly intelligent, often well versed in politics and matters of the like. Iruka gave a nod. Chimjai Akimichi. Munch here, Munch, came a voice on the other side of Naruto. Doing the same, he glanced to see the source. The source was a plump boy who wore black shorts, a long white scarf, a short-sleeved green haori, over a light green shirt with a kanji for food SS on it, small, hoop earrings, and his legs and forearms were wrapped in bandages. His forehead protector was styled in a manner that allowed two tufts of brown hair to poke out at each side. He was also stuffing his face with potato crisps in the middle of class. The Akimichi were one of the other clans of Konoha. Members of the clan possess great physical strength and were able to quickly convert calories into chakra, which they then use in their various secret techniques. Most of these techniques rapidly consume the user's chakra during use, and maintaining them during a prolonged battle can be tiring. For this reason, the Akimichi have high chakra levels and eat a lot in order to build up or replenish their chakra reserves. One of the key things you should never do is call an Akimichi fat. It will never end well for that person. Iruka sighed. Please keep the eating for lunch and break. Sakura Haruno. Present. Came a girl's voice from the far side of the room. Naruto turned his gaze to it for a brief second. It was a girl with bright pink long hair down past her shoulders. She wore a red kipao dress with white circular designs, with short sleeves and zipper, tight dark green bike shorts, standard ninja sandals. Seeing the pink hair and hearing the name Haruno told Naruto all he needed to know. Haruno was a civilian family name, not a shinobi clan, though they have been trying for that status for years. Though to be even considered you have to have a shinobi in the family, and they had none, though not from a lack of trying. Ibuki Haruno, Sakura's mother, was on the civilian council, and if what the Hokage had told him about her mother was anything to go by, she would be a pain in the ass and the ear. Iruka nodded. Hinata Hikta. Present, stuttered Hinata. Iruka smiled lightly. Kiba and Yuzuka. You're called Kiba. Both Kiba and Naruto exchanged glances and nods of respect as friends. Following the list, Iruka called the next name, Shikamaru Nara. Here came a lazy voice. Naruto just shook his head and glanced at the lazy genius. His attire was rather plain, consisting of a green-lined mesh t-shirt under a short-sleeved gray jacket with green edges, adorned on both the sleeves and the back with a circle with a line through it. Naruto had seen him around also, mostly cloud watching or beating older shinobi at shogi. You'd think they'd know never to challenge a member of Konoha's smartest clans to a strategy game. It was because of its strategic value that Naruto had had his clones read every guide and book of the game they could find and learn the game back to front. He was going to be asking Ikgao-sensei and Heiei-sensei if he could add it to his training schedule for strategy and planning purposes. And assign 50 or so clones to it. The Nara clan were hailed as the smartest clan in Konoha for many reasons, one being their in-depth knowledge of the forests, grasslands and wildlife, mainly the Nara Deer or Rikimaru, which inhabit the Nara forest. The second being for their mastery of the Yun release or intel, more specifically their shadow jutsu, allowing them to manipulate their own shadows as a method of attack or restraint. It was as even rumored that even a Nara child as young as 6 has an IQ of 180, which would be great if all the males weren't all dead lazy and had to be nagged by their wives or mothers to do anything for longer than 60 seconds that doesn't involve sleeping or watching the clouds, everything else they find too troublesome to do. Iruka sighed looking back to the noteboard. Sasuke Uchiha. And grunted. The Uchiha still brooding. Iruka rolled his eyes. Naruto Uzumaki. I'm here, sensei. Naruto called with arms crossed as he caught the glare from the assistant Mizuki. Yeah, please try something, you prick. I'll enjoy kicking your ass. Iruka smirked. Ino Yamanaka. Present, came a perky voice from the front right of the room. Naruto raised his eyebrow at the bleached blonde ponytail of the girl. A fair-skinned girl of average height with greenish-blue eyes. Her most noticeable trait in her appearance was her long, bleached blonde hair, which was in a high ponytail with bangs covering the right side of her face, wearing a pair of small silver hoop earrings and purple, fairly revealing clothing, consisting of a short purple vest-like blouse with a raised collar. The purple apron skirt that was cut up on the sides and bandages on her stomach and legs. She also wore purple and white elbow warmers with this. Hearing the name Yamanaka, Naruto raised an eyebrow. He knew that name, of course. Inoichi Yamanaka was the Hokage's left hand, with Shikaku Nara being his right. They were his advisors, both of which Naruto had met a few times. On top of that, Inoichi was part of the intel and torture division of the Anbu. Using the Yamanaka clan's mind jutsu, which allowed them to take control and even search their subjects' minds for intel. That was of course before and after the head torturer got done with them to loosen them up. The clan was also fairly skilled in botany and ran its own range of flower shops, on top of providing the shinobi with various poisons from the more deadly varieties of flowers. But then Naruto picked up on something. There was one member from each of the Nara clan, the Yamanaka clan, and the Akimichi clan in his class. Realizing what was going on, he smirked. The old man was training the next generation of the Inoshika CHM team. Those three clans have a long history of working together, and their combination attacks were legendary in the Shinobi Wars, and the current clan heads of those three clans were all on the same team when they were young, so the old man wants their kids to follow in their parents' footsteps. Naruto only chuckled at figuring out the old man's plans in less than a minute. As he did, Iruka called out the next name. Sai. Here came a monotone voice which was devoid of all emotion. Naruto looked to its source, a boy with straight black hair and dark eyes, which contrasted with his translucent-looking pale skin. Wearing a short black and grey jacket with red straps, a high-collared midriff shirt, black pants, shinobi sandals and gloves with his index and thumb fingers exposed. Seeing the gloves, Naruto looked at them with interest. The thumb and index fingertips exposed meant it was likely to allow him more grip on something like a brush for genjutsu of something similar, and the lack of the last name made Naruto somewhat on edge. No last name meant no allegiances, and no allegiances means that he was a wild card that put Naruto off. He was an unknown, and Naruto didn't like unknowns. Setting down the noteboard, Iruka clapped his hands. "Alright everyone, follow me and Mizuki out to the front practice fields." But that everyone made their way out following Iruka and Mizuki, Naruto the whole time pondering just who this Sai really was, while keeping both his eyes on him and the assistant Mizuki. He was clearly a kickby hater, so Naruto knew he would have to watch his back around the team and report him to the old man, or he could have his fun and make the idiot see what happens when you mess with an Uzumaki. Oh, it would be glorious. The entire class followed Iruka and Mizuki out to the practice yard, where there were bleachers for watchers to sit down. Clearing his throat, Iruka turned to the class. "Alright, is there anyone here that can give me a rundown on the separate skills a shinobi uses are called?" he asked the class. The girl with the pink hair, Sakura, raised her hand and Iruka pointed to her. The main jutsu types are ninjutsu, which is a chakra-based attack of the sword by molding chakra by the use of hand signs. An extension of this is genjutsu, which is an illusion that traps the target in an illusion they think is real for a period of time by deceiving all five of the senses. Then there's taijutsu, which is the physical hand-to-hand combat part. Iruka smiles and nodded. "Very good Sakura, that's." Iruka was about to finish when he saw Naruto's hand go up. "Something to add, Naruto?" Naruto nodded. "Hi sensei." Haruno-san's explanation was correct, but was only a partial explanation of the skills a shinobi can possess. Adding to Haruno-san's explanation, ninjutsu as well as genjutsu can be divided into separate classes, rating the skill required to use them. Like shinobi missions, they follow the same ranking system, but with the addition of E for the academy level techniques, such as Bunshin, Hange and Kawarimi. The most difficult being that of the S-rank level. Furthermore, they can also be divided up into their elements such as Kaiten, Fire Release, Ton, Wind Release, Raiten, Lightning Release, Doten, Earth Release and Suiten, Water Release. In addition to that, those with the correct Kekkei Genkai or bloodline limit can merge two or more elements to create sub-elements, such as the merging of Suiten, Water Release and Pton, Wind Release to form Heimten, Ice Release or Doten, Earth Release and Suiten, Water Release to create Mokuten, Wood Release. As there are too many of them to mention, I will leave ninjutsu off there and expand further on taijutsu. Haruno-san was correct that it is the physical hand-to-hand part of the shinobi skill set. She neglected to expand on its other parts such as Bukijutsu. Weapon techniques, which entail the use of any handheld weapons in combat. For academy students, that would be Shuriken Jutsu, which is just a fancy way of saying throwing weapons like kunai or shuriken, or a more specialist skill such as Kenjutsu. Sword technique, Naruto said as he tapped his bakken, hinting at it before continuing. Then there's Tessenjutsu. The use of fans that is practiced in Suna with their high wind affinity rates, Kikjutsu. The use of bow and arrows for long-range combat, Kusurigamijutsu. Chain sickle techniques, practiced by Handsome of the Salamander who defeated and spared the 3 Sannin in the Third Shinobi War, Keiakijutsu. Using explosives to fight, and finally, Jutsu. Staff techniques which is practiced by the Sarutobi clan or more specifically Sandai Amisama. Then there are the less practiced skills such as Genjutsu. Seal techniques, which the Yondaime was famous for as well as another clan lost to time. Everyone heard that clan reference and was curious as to who he was referring to, but he continued before they could ask. From it, you can expand to its less attractive side of Jujutsu, which means cursed techniques, but they fall under the category of Kenjutsu, which means forbidden techniques. The only ones allowed to use them are the ones given permission to do so by the Kage of their village, in our case the Hokage. Then there's medical ninjutsu, which is a branch of ninjutsu associated with healing, as well as the manipulation of their own, or another's body. It's practiced by shinobi categorized as medical nin, who play a vital role in the battlefield, as well as frontline fighters. Here I will stop due to the fact that if I explain any more I will dive into deeper forms of skills, and if I did that we'd be here all month. Naruto finished with a grin. Finishing his explanation, everyone was gaping at him, blinking, well, except most of the clan heirs. Being from shinobi families, most of them knew of the most detailed stuff, though some of it was interesting. There were those who weren't so impressed. Sasuke scoffed at his explanation and smirked, what good would any of that be to me against him? I must get stronger. Well, Sakura was red and pissed. How the hell does a clan less dope like you know all that? She yelled, making Naruto and Kiba hold their ears in pain from the vocal assault on their sensitive hearing, while every else flinched from the screeching. Akamaru, Kiba's dog who was on his head, whimpered, covering his ears with its paws. Shaking his head, Naruto trying to lessen the ringing in his ears before he sighed, last I checked Haruno-san, your family isn't a clan either. Well, I don't even have a family, being an orphan. I do however spend a lot of time at the library reading when I'm not training. As I gestured to my Bakken, I study Kenjutsu and also Kenjutsu as two of my shinobi skills, so I knew about them already. But I don't limit myself to them knowledge-wise, at least. It's always good to know what your opponent can throw at you in the middle of combat. Iruka nodded at Naruto's line of thinking, impressed that he had so much knowledge and it only his first day, while Mizuki could only glare, what the hell. The demon brat was meant to be stupid and clueless about anything and everything. Last I checked, the librarian didn't even let him 1 foot in the library. How did he get so smart? Iruka started applauding. Very well explained, Naruto. That was the kind of explanation that would be expected out of a Chunin level shinobi. But I've got to ask, you're Kenjutsu and Kenjutsu, just what levels are you at with them? He asked as he raised an eyebrow. Naruto nodded. Hi sensei, according to my 2 senseis in Kenjutsu, who grade and supervise my training only as I am studying a form they are not practiced in, they gauge my skill at low Chunin from my spars with them. I also study Taijutsu under them both, and I am already fluent in the academy-style stances and forms. Naruto said with a smile before continuing. Kenjutsu, as I mentioned, is a rarely practiced skill, so I have no sensei in that, and I am self-taught following the guides and such available to all. It is gauged on a level from 1 to 10, and skill 1 being a beginner and 10 being a seal master. The guides have their own grading criteria, that is, to pass a certain level you have to be able to create such a seal within such a length of time, graded by that way. I am at 3, though Hokage-sama had my seals sent to a specialist to be examined, and he finds them at the silk level of 4. I have just started book 4. Intermediate 1. Iruka's eyes widened slightly hearing that and had a smile on his face. That's very impressive, Naruto, for someone starting the academy without a clan. Who are your senseis? Naruto bowed. My apologies, Iruka-sensei, but I am not at liberty to give their names as their teaching, and grading me is an ongoing S-rank assignment, and as such not to be discussed in detail without the Hokage's presence or permission. Iruka blinked hearing that. S-rank was the highest level a mission a shinobi can be given. His senseis must have been either Chunin rank or higher to receive that kind of mission, but just what about it made it S-rank? Teaching a single student couldn't be any higher than a C or B rank mission, C being the more likely. Unless the Hokage wanted to give the senseis a way to hide their identities to avoid threats to stop, and given that Naruto was the container of the Kikbi, that was more than likely. Iruka nodded, accepting the answer, and was about to say as such when Sakura interrupted again. What a load of rubbish. Why would the Hokage assign a clan less orphan dope like you to sensei before you even join the academy? Stop lying. If anyone should have that is Sasuke-kun. She screeched. Again everyone winced from the loud screeching. Naruto and Kiba held their ears again. Akamaru followed suit, wincing in pain. Shaking his head again, Naruto now had a splitting headache, and it wasn't even lunchtime yet. I have no reason to lie, Haruno-san, nor did I. You are more than welcome to ask Hokage-sama of the existence of such an assignment to prove that, and might I request for the sake of mine and the rest of the classes, hearing that you stop yelling. We are in training to be shinobi, we are meant to be quiet, he said calmly, before fixing her with a glare, and call me that again, and you will find out just what a clan less orphan dope can do to you faster than you can blink. The glare made her shiver, and the threat and the tone it was made in made everyone bar Iruka. Mizuki and Sasuke gulped, scared slightly. Iruka raised an eyebrow at the threat, while both Mizuki and Sasuke had the same through, yeah right. Iruka cleared his throat to get everyone's attention. That's enough, now let's get back to events. Can anyone here perform any jutsu, any at all? Two hands raised up, Naruto and Sasuke both looked at each other. Sasuke had a look of surprise, not expecting someone not from a clan to know jutsu, but brushed it off thinking it was just something small nowhere near what he could do. Seeing both boys raise their hands, Iruka nodded, not shocked that Naruto knew a jutsu given that he had training. He was bound to have been taught something and was interested to see what the blonde could do. Alright then, Sasuke, you can go first. If it's an offensive jutsu, aim it down range at the target, if not, then step out where everyone can see and have at it. Sasuke nodded and walked up to the firing line and shot through several hand signs while taking a deep breath before calling his attack, Kaiten. Nkakek no Jutsu, fire release. Great fireball, as a fireball the size of a large dog shot down range before engulfing the target dummy and catching it on fire. Mizuki quickly put it out with a bucket of water. Iruka nodded, about what you would expect from Uchiha, a high fire affinity, he shows promise. Seeing the jutsu have the class broke out chanting Sasuke's praise, the Sasuke Uchiha fangirls. Sakura being the loudest of them all, woo-oh, that's it Sasuke, there no way Naruto Baka can beat that. She got multiple glares from the non-cheering side of the room, obviously, the Naruto fangirls all glaring bullets at her for calling Naruto that and insulting him earlier. Naruto rubbed his brow, his headache growing even worse. Iruka-sensei, are we allowed to perform multiple techniques if we know them and they won't be shown in the other tournaments? He asked. Iruka thought for a moment before nodding, I don't see why not, I assume you want to show off some of your Kenjutsu and Fukinjutsu as well as your ninjutsu. Naruto nodded, also I would ask that you order that the Fukinjutsu part not be removed until the end of class, as I can guarantee that it will be of benefit to everyone in the class. Iruka nodded again, very well Naruto, if I think it will be of benefit, then it won't be removed until the end of the day, and if that is the case I will ask that you use it daily for our classes then. Naruto smiled, that's alright sensei, the seal I'm going to be demonstrating can be activated and deactivated remotely, he said as he reached into the storage seal on the inside of his trench coat and pulling out a bottle of chakra ink and a brush, dipping the brush in the ink for a split second, the blonde then disappeared, making everyone look around trying to find him. Suddenly a loud eep came from Sakura as she turned around finding Naruto grinning at her. She put her hand to the back of her neck and blinked when she felt something. She was about to yell when Naruto raised his hands in a ram sign and channeled chakra into the seal. What the hell was that Baka? She said in a normal voice. She blinked and so did everyone else, no yelling. She spoke normally, it's a sign of the apocalypse, a Haruno speaking normally. Naruto smiled, that's better isn't it, and to answer your question Haruno-san, I have applied a simple volume control seal to the back of your neck, just behind where the voice box would be located. Simply put, when activated you will be unable to yell and will have to talk normally, which I can assume that everyone here is happy about, given that their ears won't be ringing because of your banshee or howler monkey yelling. I don't yell like a howler monkey, and I'm no banshee, Sakura argued looking like she was trying to yell. Naruto smirked, well now you aren't, but don't worry, I'll deactivate it now, but yell again, and I'll activate it again, until the end of class. Sakura glared at Naruto angrily, she knew just how to respond to this, you had best remove it, otherwise I'm going to tell my Kase and you put a seal on me, she's on the council, and you'll be in a load of trouble, and they'll make you take it off. Naruto shook his head, the council doesn't scare me Haruno-san, and neither does your banshee of a Kase-san, they are the advisory council, they advise the Hokage, they don't pass judgment, so it's up him should I remove the seal, though I doubt he'll argue against it, given how the fact that classes will go a whole lot smoother without you disrupting lessons with your screeching. Isn't that right sensei? Iruka looked to be in thought for a moment before nodding lightly, deactivate the seal Naruto, but Sakura he is allowed to activate it, should you yell again, if you don't want that I suggest you refrain from disrupting the class, I will speak with the Hokage myself and recommend the seal only be activated under certain situations and deactivated when you leave the academy. Sakura looked shocked, she would have thought their sensei would have been the voice of reason and had the Baka remove it, not use it as her muzzle. Now she would be completely under Naruto's whim whenever he wanted her to shut up, he just had to activate that damn seal on her neck. Naruto smiles and walked up to the firing line, that was my Kenjutsu, now here's my Kenjutsu he said as he gripped his Bakken, the resistance seal activated at its highest level as always as he pulled it free, muttering the attack as he went, Uzumaki Kenjutsu. Crescent slash, and in a single horizontal slashing motion, a chakra blade was sent down the range, cutting 3 practice dummies in half. But the attack didn't stop, it shot on and meet the tree line and finally stopped after cutting down 5 trees, letting them fall with a massive crash. Smirking Naruto returned the Bakken to its holder, while he looked at all the shocked faces behind him, well half the class was in shock, the other half was cheering for Naruto, for some reason Naruto rubbed the back of his head, it felt good to hear people cheering for him. Iruka blinked, seeing such power that was definitely Chunin level if not higher. Naruto was definitely not lying about his skills, and looking closer at the Bakken Naruto had used, he could tell it was solid chakra metal, with various seals on it. That couldn't have been cheap, which prompted the question, where had he gotten it from? Sasuke was seething. How the hell did this dope get this much power? It should be his. He was an elite, that power should rightfully be his as an Uchiha. Then he spotted the Bakken, that weapon, that must be where the power is. I will have it, I will have that power. Naruto smirked, turning back to the target area. Now I believe since Uchiha-san did a fire jutsu for his demonstration, I will also. Good thing I asked Jiji for permission to use it once for just such an occasion. Naruto drew back his hands as he focused his chakra into them, remembering his training. He had created an extra 300 clones after his first demonstration of the jutsu, and he and them had spent the rest of that day refining it and getting it under control by firing the attacks into the air. He had mastered it to an extent that something really cool happened when he was preparing to attack. In a flash, both Naruto's hands caught ablaze but didn't burn. Iruka was about to rush to him, thinking the jutsu had gone wrong, but then Naruto brought his hands together in front of him in a clap, calling out the attack. It was barely audible. Uzumaki Kaiten. Kasai Hakushu no Jutsu. Both hands met and an explosion of flame streamed out of them. The flames were so intense the rest of the class had to shield their eyes. Compared to the demonstration a few days earlier, Naruto had refined the attack a lot. The stream of flame was much more controlled and narrowed, as well as being hotter, meaning it scorched the grass beneath it after a single second. Naruto kept the attack going for several seconds before cancelling it to view the results. The line of scorched grass and earth stretched down the firing lane, and at the bottom was the remains of the target dummy, now charcoal. This time, there wasn't an applause, there wasn't even a what the hell. It was just stunned awe and shock at what they had just witnessed that continued on for a few seconds before Iruka snapped himself out of it. Naruto, what jutsu was that you just used? I've never seen it before, he asked, now slightly scared where the boy had learned such an attack. Naruto grinned. It's called Kasai Hakushu, and according to Hokage-sama it is an air rank ninjutsu. I actually had to ask his permission yesterday to use it here. He forbid me from using it outside of training until I was genin, or it was a life or death situation. It's the only fire jutsu I currently possess. Hearing Naruto's explanation, Iruka officially had his mind blown. An academy student, a non-clan member academy student, pulling off an AR rank jutsu on his first day at the academy. Just what the hell kind of training has this boy sensei's been teaching him? Sasuke had his fists clenched in anger now. How the hell? That jutsu was 10 times as strong as his jutsu, and it had taken him weeks of practicing to get it where it was, and then this clan-less dope comes along and makes his work look like nothing. What the hell is going on here? The jutsu, that's got to be it. It makes sense, it's just a stronger jutsu than the one I'm learning. I'll just have to take it from him along with that weapon of his. With both them I'll become strong easily. I'm an Uchiha, all jutsu belongs to me, and me alone. He was about to approach him then and there and demand them both, but suddenly half the class, Naruto fan club, from this moment on will be known as NFC, rushed Naruto cheering at his jutsu and how strong he was. They swarmed the young blonde while trampling right over Sasuke like he wasn't even there. But when they crowded him, the blonde disappeared in a swirl of red leaves, making them all fall flat on their faces. Both Iruka, Mizuki, Sasuke and everyone else saw this and looked around wondering what happened. Iruka blinked. Shunshin, that's a Chunin level jutsu that requires a high level of chakra control. How scratch that, I'm not even surprised anymore. Everyone was still looking around for Naruto when they all heard someone clear their throats. They all looked to where it came from, and Naruto was sticking to the wall of the academy by his feet, looking down on all of them, looking for me. Every member of the NFC had heart-shaped eyes, while Sasuke and Mizuki looked on, glaring at the boy who just seemed to get stronger and stronger. Iruka looked up at the boy. Naruto, come down, we're about to start the throwing tournament, he called up. Naruto nodded and pushed himself off the 2-story wall and did a mid-air somersault and channeled chakra into his legs to stick the landing with ease. Walking past, he and Kiba bro-fisted with a smirk. Nice one, dude, Kiba smirked at him, giving him a friendly slap on the back. Naruto grinned, thanks, but just wait, you've seen nothing yet. Everyone retook their positions as Mizuki came out of one of the storage sheds carrying 6 crates of kunai and shuriken. Setting each down, the students were told to form into a line, and their marks would be graded out of 10 shots. Each of the clan students went first. Shino threw his 10 and hit 6 of each, Chijai threw his 10 and hit 5 of each, Kiba threw his 10 and hit 5 of each, Shikamaru threw his 10 and hit 6 of each, Ino threw her 10 hit 4 of each, Hinata threw her 10 hit 7 of each. Then Sasuke threw his 10 hitting 9 of the targets with a smirk. All the others from civilian families threw theirs, but none for more than 3, except for Sakura, who pulled out 4 matching Ino's 4, and the Enigma Sai hit 5 in each matching Kiba. Finally it was Naruto's turn to throw. Walking up he lifted a single kunai and shuriken out of the crates like the others had, not wanting to use his own. As he did so he closed the boxes making Iruka raise an eyebrow. "Naruto, don't you want to take the others out before you close them up?" A few others snickered thinking Naruto was an idiot. "Guess who?" Naruto simply smiled. "No need to worry sensei, one of each is all I need." Iruka was about to say something, but before he could Naruto hurtles both projectiles down the range. As they flew Iruka looked to Naruto, and his eyes widened when he formed a hand sign. No way, he knows the jutsu. Then two poofs of smoke, both kunai and shuriken multiplied into 10 and hit each of their targets dead on, the kunai embedding into the target's head, the shuriken into where their hearts would be. A perfect 10 for 10, the targets were only half the distance away that he was used to and standing still, it was child's play for him. This, of course, got another round of cheers from the NFC and glares from Sasuke and Mizuki, who continued to glare as he walked down range to retrieve the kunai and shuriken thrown. Iruka cleared his throat again. "Alright, it's time for the final part of today's events, the Taijutsu tournament. You've all already been paired up, so follow me to the sparring ring and we'll begin." Everyone followed Iruka as he leads them to a raised ovular platform 10 centimeters off the ground, with a wide oval ring painted on it a meter in from the edge, the platform itself being 6 meters in diameter. The rounds have been arranged so you're fighting people with the same gender. It will be this way until you reach the second year, where you will be expected to be able to have the skills to fight as equals. For fairness sake, now the first match will be. The tournament began. Each of the clan heirs faced civilian children in the first round. No surprise, they all won. Sakura even pulled out a win, and Naruto won in 2 hits, the final being a jab to the back of his opponent's neck when he overreached himself. Round 2 began with Shino vs Shikamaru. After 2 minutes Shikamaru surrendered, saying it was too troublesome to continue. Round 2 was Kiba vs Chimjai. Kiba won by holding out longer than Chimjai and using his speed to dodge the big bone boy's attacks. Naruto had to fight another civilian student this time. He simply hit him with a single punch, knocking his opponent out of the ring. Needless to say, the NFC was loving their idol winning his matches effortlessly. Sasuke had done the same, only his attack was a roundhouse kick to his opponent's head, knocking them out of the ring and knocking the boy unconscious. On the girl's side it had been Ino versus a civilian. Again she barely pulled out a win, while it had been Sakura versus Hinata, and Hinata had decimated her with a flurry of punches, leaving the pink-haired girl on the ground twitching from the assault. She had been taken to the academy nurse for treatment, along with the boy who had lost to Sasuke, to check for a concussion. The third round with the boys had been Shino versus Sasuke. Shino put up his best defense, but after 3 blows he withdrew claiming he was outmatched, and Taijutsu wasn't his strong point like the rest of his clan. Then it was Naruto and Kiba, the two grinned facing each other in the ring. Kiba had let Akamaru sit this one out wanting to spar with Naruto alone. The two went at each other, ferociously, Naruto keeping up with Kiba fist for fist, kick for kick. It was a mirror image. Actually, every time Kiba threw a punch, Naruto would swat it away. Every time he threw any attack, Naruto used the same appendage and moved to deflect it. After 10 minutes of continuous sparring, Kiba was beginning to lag, and Naruto took that as a sign to end the fight. In a burst of speed he threw a punch at Kiba, aiming right for his solar plexus. Kiba saw it coming and put up his arms to defend in an X shape. The punch and Kiba's arms met, and the dog boy was pushed back a meter, flinching at the impact. Naruto was about to press the assault when Kiba raised his hand calling his surrender, in a panting voice. Naruto stopped his fist mere centimeters away from Kiba's face. The dog boy gulped. Naruto removed his fish and held out his hand. Good fight, Kiba. Kiba sighed and took Naruto's hand. Yay, but you still kicked my arse, even when you're wearing those seals of yours, and kind of makes me feel like a chump. Naruto grinned. Sorry, it's not my fault that I kick so much ass. Kiba chuckled. Yeah right, just make sure you put on a good show when you fight the emo douche. Naruto chuckled evilly. Oh, he won't know what hit him. Kiba shivered slightly at the tone but nodded, grateful he wasn't the one in Naruto's firing line. He walked off stage getting a hand on the shoulder from Iruka, who knelt down to Kiba's level. What was that you two were talking about? What seals does Naruto have? He asked, concerned. Naruto knew about the kickby, or worse, had told Kiba. Kiba rubbed the back of his head. A restriction and set of weight seals. Naruto is always training with them and making the rest of us look like chumps while doing it. Iruka sighed in relief that it wasn't the fox they were talking about, but then Iruka grew curious. Kiba, just how much weight is Naruto carrying? Kiba was about to answer, but Naruto spoke first. 50 pounds on each limb, 100 on my chest, and a level 2 restriction seal, sensei. Iruka looked at Naruto when he heard him. That was 300 pounds, 136 kg, and a restriction seal that would only make it harder for him to move. With that kind of pressure he shouldn't even be standing up right now. That would be like 2 or 3 full-size adults on him, while he's trying to push his way through a swamp up to his neck. And yet he was moving with ease, no one had yet to land a single blow. Sighing, Iruka merely accepted it, making a mental note to ask Lord Hokage what kind of training this boy sensei put him through. It was time for the final matches of the tournament. Ino had fought her way to facing Hinata in the last match, and on the boys' side, it was Naruto versus Sasuke. Sasuke walked up onto the platform and smirked, "This is a joke, there's no way a clan less dope like you could ever hope to defeat an Uchiha elite like me," he said in an arrogant tone. Naruto smirked, shaking his head, "Oh, is that right, Uchiha-san? I'll just have to prove you wrong, then won't I?" Sasuke glared at Naruto, "Impossible dope, you can't win, you will lose like all the rest." Sasuke's fan club was swooning over his words and cheering him on to beat the blonde baka for even thinking he was at the same level. The NFC, of course, was doing the same in reverse, calling for Naruto to beat the duck butt emo into the ground. Both boys glared at each other as Iruka came onto the stand and looked between them both. Sasuke fell into his clan's fighting style stance, the interceptor fist, a mix between a boxer's stance and a martial arts stance. Naruto recognized it, having read up on the different fighting styles in the library. The interceptor fist was a solid style built up over the decades of watching others' styles and coming up with counters, along with adding parts of them to the style. The style was a formidable one, but without the Uchiha Sharingan, it was only half as good. Naruto dropped into a solid stance of the Academy to Jutsu style, the basic fist, showing he was ready to fight. Naruto had studied the Academy style. It was a basic style with basic moves. Its stances were like the name suggested, basic, filled with plenty of holes, but it was only used for students to give them a solid foundation to build upon when learning another style. It basically shows them how to throw a punch without breaking their fingers, how to block and deflect successfully, how to stand and throw a powerful kick, how to dodge and duck from high blows, and how to interoperate movements to tell what your opponent is going to do next. Naruto had a good grasp of it, so he wasn't worried in this fight, even with his seals on. Seeing the boys fall into their stances, Iruka raised his hand and dropped it. Begin. Both boys glared at each other as Sasuke lunged for Naruto with a high kick. Naruto brought his arm up and blocked the kick before pushing the boy back. Sasuke landed and used the momentum to swing round and do a heel sweep of Naruto's legs. Naruto saw it coming as well and moved his foot adoringly, blocking the sweep with the bottom of his foot. And hooked the boy's leg the moment after and threw him over himself, landing face first. Getting gasps of shock from Sasuke's fan club and cheers from his own. Naruto smirked as he retook his stance as Sasuke shot at him again, pissed that he had let that happen, throwing a left hook at Naruto, who intercepts it, grabbing Sasuke's arm and used his own weight to slam the boy onto his back as Naruto moved off with a grin like he was having the time of his life. More cheers from Naruto's fan club, even Kiba was cheering, "Yay, get in there Naruto, kick that pompous prick's ass." Naruto grinned, hearing that as an idea came into his head and he liked where it was going. Sasuke's world was starting to straighten up again after meeting the mat for the second time in the fight. This shouldn't be happening to him. How can some clanless dope do this to him, an Uchiha elite? He would beat him and make him pay for such an act. Using his legs, he pumped hard and threw himself onto his feet and turned to see Naruto in a different stance. It was like he was dancing on the spot. His entire body was moving, his legs stretching out behind him and his arms swaying wide as the boy kept moving. Then a thought crossed the Uchiha's mind. He was taunting him. That just pissed him off more as he rushed the blonde. But that was just what Naruto wanted. Pushing his weight to one side, Naruto swung his right foot around at Sasuke's head and blindsided the boy with a spinning kick that came out of nowhere, as it had just looked like Naruto had still been swaying. The kick connected with the side of Sasuke's jaw, knocking him out on his feet, but the kick didn't stop. Naruto's momentum kept him going as his foot swung round in a 360, as Naruto kept his momentum going for the same foot to swing round and meet Sasuke's face with twice the momentum of the first. The impact knocked the Uchiha off his feet and spun him, landing him flat on the ground out cold. As the momentum continued, throwing Naruto into a cartwheel before he stopped and stood up, looking down at the beaten Uchiha elite. It was complete shock from the rest of the class. They had never seen a kick like that before, neither had either of the Chunin instructors. They had just assumed Naruto was messing around, but then he goes and pulls off a set of kicks like that with such force and speed behind them, they would have been impossible to predict. Iruka quickly snapped out of it and called Naruto for the victory, which was followed by cheering from the NFC, while booing from Sasuke's side. Naruto just stepped out of the ring and onto the ground. Mizuki went to check on Sasuke, while Iruka went to Naruto. Naruto, that kick and stance wasn't part of any style I've seen before in the village or anywhere in the land of fire. What was that? It looked like you were dancing for a moment, a very weird dance at that. Iruka asked, confused. Naruto smiled. It's a style I started learning after I got the academy style down with my sensei. It's based on rhythm and very powerful kicks, as you just saw. The stance I was in was called Ginga. It's the basis stance of the style. Most don't take it seriously, as they find it confusing, since it looks much more like a rhythmic dance step than an orthodox static fighting stance. But that's how it works, using momentum for power. The only problem with the style is that it requires room to build up that power. So if Sasuke had gotten in close and fast, I would have been in trouble. But that's why I have the academy style down as well, for when my opponent does get close, I change styles and really throw them off. Iruka was caught off by this. He had never heard of such a style or stance. Naruto was definitely right, people wouldn't take the style seriously until they met one of its kicks like Sasuke just had. I take it each kick has a name. Then what was the one you hit Sasuke with then? Naruto nodded. That was one of the more advanced kicks. It was called Myalua de Compasso. It's a rotation kick that uses the momentum built up from the Ginga for strength. If learned to an extent it can be built on, like my one was for an additional set of kicks. I added one for extra measure, though one seemed to do the job. You never can be sure. Iruka nodded, understanding Naruto's reasoning. Very impressive, Naruto. I'm looking forward to seeing more of that style as you learn it. Naruto bowed. Arigato for the praise, sensei, he said before turning back and walking back to the rest of the class minus Sasuke, whom Mizuki had carried off to the hospital to have examined. Iruka then had gone to referee the match between Ino and Hinata, which was over as soon as it started, when Ino bad-mouthed Naruto, saying it must have been a fluke that Naruto beat Sasuke. Hinata saw red and knocked her out with a single strike, and Iruka called the fastest match in the academy's history, before dismissing them for lunch, saying the class positions would be given after. Naruto immediately took off with Kiba heading for Ichiraku's, knowing that Anko would be heading there also, and couldn't wait to tell her about everything that's happened so far. Boy, would she be laughing. Naruto pushed past the flaps on the way into the ramen stand with Kiba, both of who were laughing their asses off, remembering how Naruto had kicked Sasuke's ass, like the little beep he was. That should shut him up for a while. Damn, and you say you still haven't mastered that style yet. Remind me never to piss you off when you do, Kiba said, laughing. Naruto patted his friend's back. Nah, no need to worry, I only reserve that kind of beatdown to the like of team back there. Both boys laughed before sitting down. Anko wasn't here yet, but Naruto knew she knew this is where he would before lunch, so it was only a matter of time till she'd arrive. No sooner had he thought that had he felt something, or rather someone hugging him from behind. Evening, Foxy-kun, miss me much? Spoke Anko's voice. Naruto grinned, spinning himself around on his stool as Anko took her seat on his lap, making him grin. You have no idea, my Heim, he said before kissing her lips in a light pass, making her smile and lean into him as he held her. So you have much fun today. I heard someone made quite the spectacle in the tournaments for the new batch. That wouldn't be you, would it, Foxy-kun? Anko said teasingly with a very big smile on her face. Naruto grinned. Maybe, he said in a sing-song voice, teasing her back. I wouldn't really call it making a spectacle per se. I was just showing off a bit. I didn't even remove my weights for the Taijutsu part, and I held back a buttload of chakra in the Jutsu example. I wasn't even using a tenth of what I should have. Actually, Naruto-sama, you weren't even using a 20th of the amount. Your chakra control had improved greatly over the few weeks training. That's good to know, thanks, Akane-chan. Well, that's because you're a powerhouse. I doubt even that Uchiha could keep up with you, Anko said with a grin which fell when she saw both Kiba and Naruto chuckling like mad. What's up, did I say something funny? Kiba laughed. Yep, Naruto made the Uchiha team look like a punk. He make his fire jutsu look like a firecracker compared to his own, beat the team at the target range with one of each projectile, and then put the pompous ass on the mat twice before knocking him flat out for the TKO. Kiba said before he fell on the ground laughing his ass off. Hearing that, Anko burst out in laughter. Oh man, I wish I could have seen it. Okay, tell me everything and leave out none of the juicy bits, I want to hear it all. Naruto grinned and was about to speak when in a swirl of leaves an Anbu appeared wearing a white boar mask with a red streak down one side. Naruto recognized him as one of the four that usually guards the Hokage. Naruto grinned and looked to him. Evening, Boar-san, I see you got a new uniform. What? Was pink not your color? I'm sure I could arrange for a bright yellow or maybe green next time, he said with a big smile, making both the others in the room roar with laughter again. Naruto and Anko had told Kiba about how he had turned half the Anbu pink with one of his pranks, and Kiba still laughed picturing the sight. The Anbu paled behind his mask. Please don't, Uzumaki-san, and I'm here on urgent business. You have been summoned to appear before the council immediately. You are charged with 2 counts of assault and 1 count of theft. This got all 3 of their attentions. Not yet being shinobi meant that such charges held a lot more weight to them than if they were shinobi. And who was Naruto meant to have assaulted and stolen from? Slowly Naruto sighed before gesturing Anko off his lap. She gripped his hand and he smiled at her softly. It's alright Hime, I'll see to this and see you at home, Kiba, mind telling sensei I could be later to class than expected if this drags on. Kiba nodded at Naruto's request, sure dude. Just fill me in on just what the hell's going on later. Naruto nodded and looked to Anko before giving her another quick kiss, brushing her hair back out of her face. See you soon my Hime, he smiled before stepping back and disappearing into a whirlwind of red leaves, making the Anbu blink behind his mask and quickly following him. Just then Tucci came out from the back. Oh hey you two, I thought Naruto would have been with you, he said, confused he wasn't seeing his favorite blonde customer. Kiba shook his head and Anko sighed. You just missed him Tucci Oji-san, he was just summoned by the council on trumped up charges. Tucci looked at her, gripping his wooden spoon more tightly as he gritted his teeth, growling slightly, rat bastards. He muttered under his breath before looking back to the ramen pots and taking their orders. When Tucci went into the back to start to make their orders, Kiba looked to Anko and then a very evil idea crossed his mind. Hey Anko, I think there's something else you should know about class today. Anko looked at Kiba with a raised eyebrow. Like what? She asked curiously as to what it could mean. Scene break. Naruto appeared in the middle of the council chambers in his swirl of red leaves, causing many of the present councilors and clan heads to look at him. But a second later he felt a shiver go down his spine for an unknown reason, and then he gulped. I just got a very bad feeling a force is about to be unleashed on some poor academy students. Oh well, it's probably nothing. The room was a large and circular with a lowered middle flooring with a set of steps leading down. There were 2 curved tables on either side, just before the steps behind which the councilors and clan heads sat on opposite sides. The tables were divided at both ends by a large gap, one side led to the large double doors into the council room, the other was the Hokage's chair. On the right side of the room was the easily recognizable civilian council, made up of the wealthier of the civilians, mostly those who run the market district, the banks, restaurants and other well-off the business of the sort. On the left were the clan heads, all of whom Naruto recognized. First from the Hokage's chair was top of the head of Shikaku Nara, Nara clan head, and father to Shikamaru Nara. He had 2 scars on the right side of his face, which were probably his most noticeable feature. Like his son, he had dark hair tied up into a spiky ponytail, dark eyes as well as a goatee. His ears were also pierced. Like many of the clan heads he was an active shinobi, and as so wore clothing of that of a shinobi. Shikaku wore a meshed shirt underneath his flak jacket, a deerskin coat over that and hand guards. And typical of that of the Nara clan was a genius, but an extremely lazy one, so he tried to get as much sleep when he could. Next was Inoichi Yamanaka, head of the Yamanaka clan and one of the previous members of the Ino Shikacho formation. He was also a valued member of the torture and intelligence division, and the Hokage's right-hand man as Shikaku was his left. Inoichi was also a shinobi. He had long ash blonde hair reaching into his back, which he wore spiky on top and ending in a long ponytail, blue-green eyes and strong facial features, which included a well-defined jawline, wearing the standard flak jacket over a black outfit, complete with hand guards, forehead protector and a sleeveless red haori. Then was Shimza Akimichi, a tall, plump man with long, spiky red hair and purple markings on his cheeks, wearing a samurai-style outfit, which entails a black suit completed with armor that has the kanji for food on it. But the addition of a rope belt, hand guards, and instead of a forehead protector he wears a hachimaki tied around his head, as most chefs do, as one of the things Akimichi were known for was their restaurants. He also wore a pair of silver hooped earrings. Next came Tsumin Yuzuka, and currently the only female clan head among the clans, but she was not someone you would want to mess with. She has an animalistic look similar to that of her son Kiba. She has long, spiky, untamed brown hair, vertical slit-like pupils, elongated canine teeth and nails. She also has the clan fang markings on her cheeks, as well as markings over her eyes, and a dark shade of purple lipstick. She wears the standard outfit of a Konoha shinobi, consisting of flak jacket and a black suit underneath, with the sleeves rolled up and bandages around her legs. Rumor had it that when it comes to men, the last one she literally made him piss himself after she found him sleeping around. The man was so afraid he fled the land of fire to keep the bits that made him a man. Naruto had the balls to ask if that was true when they met, and she laughed, saying every word of it. Naruto made a point right there and then to always stay on her good side. After Tsume was the more stoic face of Hiashi Haika clan head. He has long, black hair and featureless wide eyes like all members of his clan, who wield the Byakugan. He normally wears very traditional, loose-fitting robes with a long-sleeved brown haori, as one of the wealthier of the clans, and the largest Hiashi doesn't take on many missions. Though Naruto has never doubted the man's strength in a fight, Naruto never really had a problem with the Haika clan. They were cold to everyone, mostly except to those who earned their respect. Naruto had also heard rumors of the clan branding their branch members with a seal of some sort. He has heard the effects are rather unpleasant, but he has never seen it. And then finally came Shibi Aburami, head of the Aburami clan, like all members of his clan, has his eyes obscured by dark glasses, which feature a single tassel hanging down from one side. He has very spiky short black hair and a mustache, and wears a high-collared outfit. Truthfully, the Aburami kind of creep Naruto out with their bodies filled with bugs, just the thought made Naruto squirm. Appearing in the room as he did got a few raised eyebrows at the fact that someone that just started the academy that day knowing Ichikenin level technique. Naruto quickly glanced around the room as soon as he arrived, and one thing that he noticed was that the Hokage wasn't present. Naruto's eyebrow twitched ever so slightly, noticing that. Great, so I came here when I didn't need to. Naruto let it slide and then grinned. Maybe I'll have some fun, should be interesting. Evening all, Naruto said, grinning. So someone mind telling me why I was called away from my girlfriend when there was no need for me to even come? This got some raised eyebrows on the clan's head side, and Tsume just chuckled, imagining Anko wouldn't take kindly to the interruption, while over on the civilian side they were livid. Brat, you would do well to show us the respect we deserve. We are the council and we should be treated with the utmost respect. Especially from low-class shit such as you. The clan heads all shook theirs hearing their civilian counterparts rant and rave at the young blonde, who just crossed his arms. Naruto smirked a bit. Oh please, I respect those who have actually done something to earn it or hold a position of power that they don't abuse. Such as the clan heads and the Hokage, they have my respect and who I answer to. I do not and will not answer to a fat-ass bunch of decrepit old senile civilians who just because they believe they hold a grain of power in their hands, believe they have the right to abuse it as such. You civilian counselors make me sick. How dare you, Anbu, kill this demon brat now, he cannot speak to us like this. Screeched a woman with long pink hair as she pointed at Naruto, eyes filled with rage. Both Naruto and Tsume flinched from the vocal assault. Naruto responded first. You ignorant banshee bitch, last I checked the shinobi and Anbu only follow the Hokage's orders. You cannot command the Anbu like your playthings, they have no obligation to listen to your orders, same as me. The only reason I came here was because I was told I was being brought up on charges of 2 counts of assault and 1 of theft, but seeing that the Hokage is the only one who can formally bring those charges against me, I see that I was misinformed, so care to explain why I was called here? Naruto said, not missing a beat. This got some shocked reactions from the clan heads and a few raised eyebrows. This was news to them as well. Tsume started growling, what bullshit is this? We were informed that the Hokage had important matters to discuss. What's this about charges? Naruto looked to her, not a damn fucking clue, though I suspect these diskless shits over here know. Naruto then turned to them and glared at them and they returned in kind. How dare you, brat? We are the council, and you have committed crimes against this village. You attacked 2 citizens and stole from one of them. A fat shopkeeper barked. Naruto scoffed, oh really, they tell me, you pissant, if I'm being brought up on charges I'm assuming that you have the warrants for my arrest and detainment, signed and sealed by the Hokage. If not, that means your charges are false, having not been brought to the Hokage's attention. Naruto glared but then smirked, but I think I humor you, just who was I meant to have attacked, and just who have I stolen from, and what have I stolen? You know full well, demon. Screeched the pink-haired woman. Both Tsume and Naruto flinched again from the loud noise. This time, it was Tsume to speak first. Would you shut up, yell like that again, and I'll come over there and cut your fucking banshee voice box out, you bitch. She yelled as she exuded killing intent, making the pink-haired woman cower. Naruto was rubbing his ears, making the ringing stop, before shaking his head. Ah, I see what's going on here now. Fair enough, he said before looking to the corner in the shadow. Nico-chan, would you mind go informing Hokage-sama that there are some matters that are in need of his attention in the council chambers? The cat-masked Anbu stepped out of the shadows and nodded. Very well, Uzumaki-san. She responded as she was about to shunch into the Hokage's office when one of the other civilian counselors stood up and started yelling. Hey, how come you listen to what he says and not us, the council? There were a few hidden laughters coming from the shadows in the room and even a slight giggle from Nico before she responded. Simple councilman, we respect Uzumaki-san, unlike you lot. She said before disappearing in a swirl of green and purple leaves, leaving the civilian council members gritting their teeth in anger. Naruto smiled before walking to the center of the room and sitting down. Now, time to wait. So Tsume-san, how things been at the Inyazuka compound? I haven't been by as few days. Tsume grinned, bowed as well as can be expected. Gaki, training the new pups for the next generation is always slow. What about you? How was your first day at the academy going? Naruto smirked before putting his hands behind his head and lying back on the ground. It was going great up until 15 minutes ago. We wrapped up the demonstration and tournament part of the day. Target practice was good, but they could do with increasing the target distance. I'm used to throwing twice the distance at moving targets. If I remember the scores correctly, Shino got 14 out of 20. Jai got 10 out of 20, Kiba got the same, Shikamaru surprisingly hit 12 out of 20, even though he seems to have about as much will to participate as you do staying conscious Shikaku-san. Naruto chuckled along with a few of the clan heads, as the half-conscious Nara just waved him off, head still down on the desk. Ino got 8 out of 20, same with her pink-haired counterpart Haruno, which isn't good Inoichi-san, you need to get that fangirl out of her. Inoichi frowned hearing that. I've tried Naruto, but the girl is like her mother, stubborn, and she's a teenager, which is even worse. Naruto nodded in understanding. Well, she was just above average, the civilians hit about 6 or less. Naruto then looked to Hiashi. You should be proud, Hiashi-sama. Hinata scored highest from all the Kunoichi, and even matched Shino with 14 out of 20 hits. Hiashi blinked once and nodded his head. Thank you, Uzumaki-san, I will be sure to congratulate her, he said with a nearly unnoticeable smile tweaking his lips. Naruto saw it and smiled back before continuing. Of course the oh-so-great civilian part is probably wondering what the Uchiha got as well. No shock it was high, given how many hours he likely trains. He scored 18 out of the 20 possible hits, making him the highest in the class. Naruto grinned cheerily, as pleased smirks came to the counselors' faces before Naruto spoke again, or at least he was, until I beat him with a perfect 20 hits. That got a few smirks from the clan heads. Tsume started laughing and pounding the table, the civilian side not so much. Rubbish, there's no way a clan less orphan like you could best Uchiha-sama at anything. White lying brat. Like we would ever believe your pack of lies. Naruto shook his head as the clan head sighed listening to them. Each of the clan heads had had dealing with Naruto in the past and knew the fact that he wasn't the Kikbi sealed inside. Though they weren't privy to the more delicate information that he had spoken to the Kikbi, or that the Kikbi was female and she was named Akane, and that she was actually controlled by someone with a Sharingan eye. But the majority of the clan heads like Naruto, Hiashi was on the fence about him, but he wasn't unfriendly with the boy and could see he was decent and he would side with him on most matters, but matters being as they are with the Hikta Council breathing down his neck and with the state his clan is in, he can't anger them. Just as things were starting to get heated, the doors opened and the third Hokage walked in with Nico at his side. What is going on here? He asked in a rather angry voice. It was at that point Naruto kicked himself up onto his feet and turned to his surrogate grandfather with a grin. Oh, you know, the usual Hokage-sama, just the civilian side of the council overstepping their bounds, trying to usurp your power and charge me with false crimes, the usual BS. Hearing his surrogate grandson's explanation and seeing the looks of rage on the civilian councilors' faces directed at the boy, Hiruzen just sighed. Can I get a bigger headache? Let's get this over with then, but we will do this right. What crimes are you being accused of, Naruto? With a big grin on his face, Naruto chuckled. Why, 2 counts of assault and 1 of theft apparently, and I think I know the 2 who are charging me, so this shouldn't take too long, Hokage-sama. Hearing the charges, Hiruzen leveled his angry gaze on the civilian side of the council. Those are some serious charges, and there had better be some serious evidence to back them up, seeing as they were never brought before me beforehand, they will be now. The Hokage walked to his seat before sitting down. So who is it that you are meant to have assaulted and stolen from, Naruto? Naruto grinned, sitting down with his legs crossed, with a grin. Well, if my guess is right, I thinking it would be Sakura Haruno and Sasuke Uchiha. As for the theft, I have no clue. At that moment the pink-haired woman again rose. AHA, so you admit to attacking my daughter and the great Uchiha-sama, it's a confession. Naruto and Tsume covered their ears, as did a few others. The banshee was screaming louder now. The Hokage glared at the pink-haired woman. Counselor Haruno, you would do well to remember to speak in tone, and in a reasonable tone at that. Any further outbursts, and you will be removed from council chambers for the remainder of the meeting. Gulping, the pink-haired woman quickly sat down, but still glaring daggers at Naruto, who had just finished rubbing the new ringing out of his ears before speaking. No, that was not a confession, it was just a guess considering who is present in the room at the moment. Naruto then looked over at another shadow. You two can come out now. As Naruto spoke, 2 figures came out of the shadows, Sakura Haruno and Sasuke Uchiha. Naruto held up his hand as if to say, and there you have it, before grinning. Now shall we continue to these apparent attacks? Once again it was the Haruno banshee to the screeching. You branded my daughter with a seal and attacked Uchiha-sama while his back was turned. My daughter witnessed it. And the mini banshee couldn't help herself. That's right, that baka you hurt Sasuke-kun. Now the clan heads, Anbu, Hokage, were wincing from the vocal bombardment, thinking these girls had to have weaponized their vocal cords, that or it was a bloodline limit of some kind that had no point. Everyone now nursing serious migraine groaned as they rubbed their ears, except for Naruto. Tsume looked to him and raised an eyebrow. How come you aren't affected now? Naruto grinned as he reached up to his ear and pulled out a red earbud with some seals on it, sound filtering earbuds. I put them in just before, they come in handy for such occasions, won't let any sound in over a certain frequency. I designed them walking to lunch before coming here, figured they might come in handy, boy was I right. The clan heads, Anbu and Hokage all had two thoughts, smart bastard and can he make me a pair. Naruto grinned, now, let's sort out these charges, the easiest way would be to call Iruka-sensei, as he witnessed both of these supposed attacks. The Hokage nodded and gestured to Nico who nodded before disappearing and another Shunshin returning seconds later with a serious-looking Iruka. Hello, Iruka-sensei, my apologies for dragging you away from class, but some matters have come up that we need you to clear up, Naruto said as he stood up. Iruka nodded and looked to the Hokage, I will answer any questions given to me, Hokage-sama. The Hokage nodded in thanks, thank you Iruka, now Naruto here has been charged with multiple crimes, the two in question at the moment are 2 counts of assault, and Naruto believes you bore witness. Naruto nodded, Iruka-sensei, did you see me apply a seal to the back of Sakura Haruno-san's neck during a demonstration of my skills earlier today? Iruka nodded, yes I did, along with the rest of the class, I was going to be seeing about meeting with Hokage-sama later today after class about arranging for it to be permanent until she leaves, so as to benefit the entire class. This got a few blinks from the clan heads as to just what this seal was, if it benefited the class so much for the class sensei to ask for it to be made permanent for the girls' time at the academy. The Hokage stroked his beard for a second before chuckling, Naruto, is the seal in question the one I am thinking of? Naruto grinned, yes it is Jiji if you would like I would give a demonstration to the council as to how the seal was applied, though to make them feel safe, I would ask that the ink is mixed with your chakra, so as only you can activate it. The Hokage chuckled, very well Naruto. He said as he gestured for the boy to come to him as he took out a kunai and pricked his finger as Naruto held out a bottle of plain ink, catching the chakra-filled blood, before capping the bottle and shaking it to mix the two together, as the Hokage healed the small cut with a small medical ninjutsu. Naruto then took out a brush and smiled, do I have your permission to apply the seal, Hokage-sama? Hiruzen smiled, go right ahead Naruto. Naruto smiled back as he dipped his brush into the ink and disappeared into a blur. Before anyone could react, the elder Haruno screamed as she felt something touch the back of her neck in shock. She turned quickly to see Naruto grinning at her before disappearing and reappearing in the center of the room again. Seal had been applied Hokage-sama if you would. The Hokage nodded and formed a hand sign just as the Haruno woman got up. How dare you touch me filth, I will see you hang for this travesty, demon, you hear me, you? The Hokage channeled chakra and just like that the seal activated, will pay for this with your life, demon. The entirety of the room was silent for precisely 3 seconds after that in shock at what had just occurred, but then the entire clan head side of the room broke out in celebration. Praise Kami, it's a miracle. The banshee has been silenced. No more screaming, the screaming has stopped, hallelujah. It's a gift from Kami-sama, praised the boy. Naruto had to sweat drop at seeing grown men weep with happiness, and seeing a few of them get up and dance was hysterical. Naruto even saw Hiruzen muttering a silent prayer of thanks which made him chuckle. Before the old man cleared his throat. Alright, that's enough. He said as the clan head settled down, the seal applied to both women hold no threat to them, and I hereby order that they remain and only activated at certain times, such as when in meetings and at the academy, it will save many people's eardrums. Not screeching this time due to her seal, the older Haruno spoke, what, you can't do that, this has got to be a breach of mine and my daughter's rights. Hiruzen fixed her with a glare, may I remind you Lady Haruno that this is a dictatorship, not a democracy, I can do what I please, I wear the hat not you, and as for your rights, what of the rest of our rights not to be deafened by your yelling, I believe speaking in the norm may be beneficial to all at those times when the seal is active. And to add to that, as the seal is non-attacking there is no assault here, so that is 1 count of assault off the table. Naruto cleared his throat at that, you may as well strike the second count for the Uchiha as well, if it's the one that caused him to be treated at the hospital, it wasn't an attack, and it certainly wasn't when his back was turned. It was a sanctioned sparring match in the tournament for the first day, and how the younger Haruno-san can even testify to this count is confusing as she was in the medical office after being knocked out in her previous fight, so she wasn't even there to witness the rest. I'm sure you can verify this for me, Iruka-sensei. Iruka nodded to Naruto request, yes I can, Sakura Haruno lost in the second round of the tournament when she faced Hinata Haika and was beaten in 10 seconds with an instantaneous blow, resulted in her being knocked out and taken for medical attention, and did not return for the remainder of the tournament. Naruto's and Sasuke's match was in the finals of the tournament which lasted for 3 minutes, in which Sasuke met the mat twice in a row, before Naruto switched fighting styles to confuse Sasuke, and then delivered a set of kicks that knocked Sasuke out for the win. It was all witnessed and sanctioned, no assault took place. At this point both Sasuke, Sakura and the civilian side were fixed with glares from the clan head side. Not only had they tried to pin phony charges on Naruto, they had done so around the Hokage's back and tried to do so with a false witness, which were bordering on crimes themselves. Had they actually succeeded, that was, unfortunately, there was no crime for the attempted part. Hiruzen finally sighed, with the overwhelming evidence against, this charge is dropped also, there was no assault here either, now let's get on with this final count so we can get this meeting over with, just what has Naruto stolen, and from who? At this point, an elderly woman on the Hokage's left side stood up. Naruto recognized her as Kaharu Uchiha. Her gray hair is pulled back in a twin bun, locked by a traditional Japanese hairpin with 2 pearls dangling off the side, wears a simple long kimono, closed by an obi, a jacket, and a sash over it. Her eyes are always squinting, barely opening her eyes at any point in time that Naruto has seen her. It has been reported that Uzumaki-san has stolen both a kaiten, fire, jutsu and a training weapon from the Uchiha clan resources, the objects and jutsu in question. He blatantly used to destroy part of the academy training ground. It is asked that the weapon is returned and reparations are made for the jutsu stolen. On top of which extra charges be applied for destruction of Konoha Shinobi Academy resources. She stated, not missing a note. A few of the clan heads raised an eyebrow at that, those were serious allegations, stealing clan jutsu and property were serious offenses, and using them to destroy parts of the academy was also a punishable offense. A few looked to Naruto whose fists were clenching as he looked to be furious with anger. This wasn't missed by the Hokage whose eyes widened, realizing that Naruto knew only one kaiten, fire, jutsu, and only one weapon that could have done damage like that, and he was now livid also at what the Uchiha was claiming, and that it was an outright lie. Naruto sighed as he released his anger, and then a slight smile came to his face. He was going to slam this back in their faces and make them eat it. "Oh, is that a fact, dear counselor?" Naruto said sweetly with a very creepy smile on his face. "Well, I'm sorry to say you have been blatantly lied to. Perhaps you should have checked your sources first, but then given your blatant hatred for me, it doesn't shock me that you jumped at the chance to try and have me punished for something that is so obviously a pack of lies." Naruto said in a sing-song act with a smile on his face that made a few of the clan heads blink and Hiruzen chuckle, knowing what was happening. "How dare you talk to me like that, brat? You will show the proper respect when addressing your betters, and how dare you call Uchiha-sama a liar when you are so blatantly flaunting the very weapon you stole?" She snapped, angered by Naruto. Naruto smiled. "Oh, you mean this?" he said as he took out the bakken from his belt. "I'm afraid Uchiha team must be mistaken, this is mine." "Liar, such a weapon is obviously too powerful to belong to you, and so must belong to Uchiha-sama," spoke the Haruno who was desperately trying to yell. Naruto shrugged. "Well, perhaps I am wrong then," he said as he walked over and set the bakken on the table, swirling it like it weighed nothing. "How about this? If the Uchiha team can lift my bakken, he may have it." Naruto smiled. A few of the civilian counselors were grinning internally, thinking Naruto was a complete fool to give them this chance, as was Sasuke who showed it outwardly. He would take the weapon and with it, its power, and then the council would have Naruto teach him that jutsu, and he would be even stronger. Sasuke grinned, walking over and reaching out for the bakken on the table. He gripped it and went to lift, but as he did he found the bakken didn't even budge. The thing weighed a literal ton. Sasuke took it in both hands and tried to lift. Nothing. He put his foot on the table. Still nothing. He was pulling as hard as he could, and still nothing. What the hell was going on? Sasuke kept pulling at the blade for the better part of 2 minutes, all the clan head sweat dropping at the sight. Well, Tsume was rolling on the ground, laughing her ass off. Hiruzen couldn't help but smirk slightly, while all the civilian counselors looked on, confused as to what was going on. After another 10 seconds, Naruto had enough and mentally removed his permission to allow Sasuke to tough the bakken, causing the practice blade to flare its stored chakra at the handle, throwing Sasuke back, his hands burned by the chakra. The civilian counselors were wide-eyed at that and immediately reacted. "How dare you attack the last Uchiha demon? He booby-trapped the blade, arrests him." They began yelling, making Naruto sigh, shaking his head, but the yelling was stopped when the Hokage flared his kai. "That's enough." Naruto did nothing of the sort, he barked, getting their attention, and Naruto was right when he said, "You have been lied to, as all the facts stated are false." Danzo looked to Hiruzen. "I take it you have proof, then, Hokage-sama, of your claim?" Hiruzen nodded to Danzo. "I do. The bakken is made of 100% pure and refined chakra metal, filtered and hardened to perfection, no flaws whatsoever. The entire process of refining the metal took 3 days and nights. The molding took another day and night before it was sharpened and polished for Naruto. He placed the order for it several days ago at Shinobi Arms, where Daichi Ashiro filled the order. Such a piece of craftsmanship cost 9,020,084 yen, which Daichi agreed to have paid off in weekly installments." A few of the clan heads blinked, hearing the process such a weapon would cost a lot, and the price was no shock to them, but what confused them was why Daichi would arrange for such a payment method, but none spoke up. "I was there when he placed the order and picked it up. I was also the one to apply the seals onto the piece to better its performance. That bakken has no connection to the Uchiha clan whatsoever, and the claim that is complete rubbish." The civilian side of the council was completely furious. Not only had their plans been dashed, but their attempt to better the last Uchiha had been completely thrown on its head, but there was still the jutsu and the damage done to the training grounds. The Haru stood up. There is still the fact that he stole an Uchiha Kaiten, fire, jutsu, and used it to destroy part of the academy training grounds for no good cause. Naruto chuckled at that statement, another blatant lie. Honest, you people really need to try something new, or at least get better at lying. The Haru was about to speak when she was cut off by the Hokage. Naruto is right, he only possessed one Kaiten, fire, jutsu in his arsenal of jutsu, and it was not stolen. It was one of the 6 passed down to him as part of his parents' last wishes, and has no connection to the Uchiha clan either. Yet another lie. That statement got a few counselors' attention as Danzo spoke up. Hokage-sama, it was my belief that Uzumaki-sen was an orphan, and his parents were not known. Is that not still a fact? Hiruzen shook his head. No, his parents have always been known to me, but certain facts had left it that their identities have been declared an SS rank secret, and I will not be divulging them as is my right as Hokage. You do not need to know, and so you will not be told. Only myself and Naruto know who his parents are, and you are not to ask. Doing so is violating shinobi law and is punishable by death for those who know not to ask. Do not push on this subject. He said, leaking killing intent, making all those in the room take his words very seriously. The Haru cleared her throat. Very well, but he still. But this time Naruto cut her off. Oh, will you give it a rest already? You're about to say I still used it to destroy part of the academy training grounds for no reason, which is bullshit again. I used it with permission to demonstrate one of my jutsu, as it's currently the one I have the most control over. Haruka-sensei can verify this fact. And Hokage-sama can also verify that it was the same jutsu used as I asked for permission the day before to use it, due to the restrictions placed on me during its use outside of practice. This got some raised eyebrows also on the clan head side of the room. The Hokage placing restrictions on a justice use was a rare occurrence indeed and sparked a few questions as Shikaku leant forward. Just out of curiosity, Uzumaki-san, what rank is this jutsu you know? For the Hokage to place such restrictions on you to do with its usage, what are the conditions of its use? Naruto smirked. It's not really shocking given its strength and my current non-shinobi status. The conditions state that I'm not to use it outside of practice or in any spar until I am genin rank, and in spars I am to keep its strength to a reasonable level. As for the justice rank, it's A rank, with the potential to reach SS rank if enough chakra is applied to it. In my training though I can push it to mid-S rank with protective barriers in place. Using it at the academy that time I toned it down to mid-C rank strength. This got a row of shocked looks from the clan side of the room. For an academy student to pull off such a jutsu was impossible, but then given that the boy was a Jinchuriki wasn't a stretch given how much power they contained. They could see why the Hokage had placed the restrictions as he had. Using a jutsu like in a spar before one became a shinobi would only be asking for trouble. Danzo's one eye was wide open hearing Naruto's words. Unlike the rest of the civilian side, he knew how justice were ranked, and a jutsu with the possibility to reach SS rank had the possibility to wipe out half the village in a single attack. At first he was all for some of the council's plans to have that jutsu taught to the Uchiha to better the village. But given the Uchiha's state of mind and the fact the jutsu was that powerful, such an act would only endanger the village, but it still doesn't mean he couldn't learn more about it. Danzo cleared his throat. This jutsu does sound very powerful, Uzumaki-san. I can see why it has such restrictions placed on it. Might I be so bold as to ask its name and its fundamental principles of performance? Naruto stroked his chin for a moment, thinking the request over, nodding slightly. I see nothing wrong with that request, but I would request that certain ears not be privy to such information, Naruto suggested as he gestured slightly to the emo and his pet monkey. Hiruzen nodded. I believe that would be wise also, he said before lifting his hand slightly as a signal, as 2 Anbu appeared behind Sasuke and Sakura, quickly disappearing with them before they had a chance to protest. But the nod of thanks, Naruto continued. The technique is called Kasai Hakushu. Its general technique flows solely around that of chakra and elemental manipulation, storing up and compressing the Kaiten chakra into the palms of your hands, while at the same time building up a protective layer of chakra on your hands, so when the attack is released in the clap your hands aren't burned. It takes a few time to find the balance for the level of protection needed to keep your hand safe. When using the jutsu too little, and your hand will get burned, too much, and you're wasting chakra, and that's never good in a long battle. Danzo stroked his chin. A jutsu that is completely chakra and elemental manipulation that requires no hand signs, just like the Yondai Maze Rasengan, which was a powerful jutsu indeed, and the fact that the boy could preform it was a testament to his skill already. Very impressive indeed. Thank you, Uzumaki-san. Naruto nodded to the old bandaged man, seeing he currently held no ill intent, but that could change, though his attention was quickly drawn by the elder Haruno again. Brat, you will teach the jutsu to Uchiha-sama, he should have that power, not you. She snapped angrily, not being able to yell. She was immediately fixed with a glare from the clan head side and the Hokage, and even from Dansme at what she was saying, but that all stopped when Naruto snorted and began to laugh aloud. Ha 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 ha, that's rich, oh that is rich, you think you can order me to do anything, ha 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 ha, oh the irony of that sentence, you can't order me to do jack shit lady, and you know it. Naruto laughed, making the elder Haruno seething with rage. How dare you speak to me like that? I'm part of the council and you have to do as I say. She snapped angrily. Naruto shook his head along with that of the clan heads, and the Hokage, Banshee-san, you are part of the advisory council, you advise the Hokage, you do not make demands, pass laws, give orders, or have any powers whatsoever, what you possess is a title, nothing more, the only people in this room who have such powers are the Hokage and clan heads. The Hokage runs the village, and the clan heads run their clans, the civilian side does sweet fuck all. You are a bunch figureheads that give the illusion of power, a load of ugly ones at that, the only power you have is that of what you believe somehow have come to possess in your head. Naruto chuckled, sure some of you have a business and certain pull with others, but compared to the Hokage who actually runs the village you are nothing. Naruto said aloud, stating the facts as they were. This shocked most in the room. That fact was well known, that the council held no power, that only the Hokage did, that the council was only there to advise the Hokage about the many views so that he can make an informed decision, and the clan heads were his commanders in times of war, and in such times the civilian members weren't even privy to the meetings. Finally, Naruto sighed before heading to the door. Now since all of the matters concerning me have been dealt with, I believe I will be heading back to. Oh crap, Naruto said, looking at the clock. It was well past the time where the academy had ended and Naruto shook his head. Oh well, I guess the academy is out, I'll just head home. Oh, Iruka-sensei, just out of curiosity, where did I rank in the class ratings? Iruka smiled, top of the class Naruto, Sasuke took second after you, Hinata took first for the Kunoichi, with Ino taking second above Sakura due to her going further in the Taijutsu part than her, as this was just practical today, so congratulations. Naruto grinned and looked to the civilian side with a grin, told you so. Each of the civilians was livid at this, but dared not to voice their rejection in front of an already pissed off Hokage. Iruka then spoke again. But I think you might want to be careful going home, Naruto, there was an incident when class resumed and you weren't there, Iruka said with an embarrassed chuckle. Naruto blinked, why, what happened? Iruka rubbed the back of his head sheepishly, well I think you better ask Mitarashi-sen about that, she was the one who tried to feed a large portion of the girls in your class to her rather large snake summons, while threatening to, and I quote, cut their tiny little beep off and ram them down their throats should they ever look at her man like that again. This got a blinking response from most of the listeners aside from a few. The elderly Hokage just sighed as he shook his head before tossing a small coin bag to Nico. You win this round, Nico-chan. The Nico Anbu smirked beneath her mask before pocketing the coin bag. As everyone sweat dropped at the obvious bet. Naruto just sweat dropped and shook his head before Tsume started rolling on the ground, laughing her ass off now. Ha 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 ha, that's what's called staking your claim, Naruto, you lucky bastard. Naruto smirked, you don't have to tell me that, but something tells me we've got Kiba to thank about her finding out. I was about to tell her when I was brought here, so he must have spilt the beans. Tsume smirked, oh, I'm giving him a week off for that. That was genius, I just wish I could have seen it. Naruto nodded, so do I, well I'd better get going, I've got a snake mistress to reward, he said before disappearing in a leaf shunshin, leaving them with their jaws on the floor and Tsume laughing her ass off. Chapter end. Alright, that's it for today's video guys, let me know in the comments section how was the story, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video, peace out.